Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. Vygotsky's theory provides not just a way to understand learning, but a blueprint for designing effective classrooms. It forces educators to shift their role from sage on the stage, a didactic transmitter of information, to guide on the side, a facilitator, and MKO who carefully designs environments for mediated learning. The primacy of collaborative and peer learning. SCT elevates the role of social interaction among students. If learning moves from the social plane to the individual, then classroom activities should be structured to maximize meaningful peer interaction. Heterogeneous grouping. Teachers should intentionally group students of differing ability levels. The less capable student benefits from the guidance and modeling of the more capable peer, the MKO, who can naturally scaffold the activity. Simultaneously, the more capable student benefits by articulating their understanding, which deepens their own intrapsychological comprehension. This creates a win-win situation where everyone pulls their weight in the learning process. Structured dialogues. Activities should demand genuine conversation and shared problem-solving, not just parallel play. For instance, rather than having students silently complete a worksheet side by side, they should be tasked with a group project that requires them to negotiate roles, explain concepts to one another, and build a single shared product. Reciprocal teaching. One of the most concrete and successful applications of SCT is reciprocal teaching, developed by Palinsar and Brown. This method uses a structured dialogue to teach reading comprehension in small groups and perfectly illustrates the ZPD and scaffolding in action. Students and the teacher take turns being the leader in performing 4 strategic activities related to a text. 1. Predicting, estimating what will come next, requiring the use of prior knowledge. 2. Questioning, generating questions about the main ideas, encouraging critical engagement. 3. Clarifying, identifying and explaining difficult vocabulary, jargon, or confusing concepts, forcing metacognitive awareness. 4. Summarizing, condensing the main points of a passage, integrating information. Initially, the teacher is the MKO, explicitly modeling each strategy, heavy scaffolding. Over time, the teacher gradually transfers the leadership role to the students, fading, who through internalizing the 4 strategies, eventually use them independently to regulate their own reading comprehension. Intrapsychological development. This technique hits the ball out of the park for applying Vygotsky's principles to literacy instruction. Dynamic assessment. A direct implication of the ZPD is the concept of dynamic assessment, which Vygotsky proposed as an alternative to static, standardized testing. Static tests measure what a student already knows, the actual level. Dynamic assessment, conversely, measures the student's ability to learn during a teaching-testing interaction, the ZPD. In a dynamic assessment scenario, the tester actively provides prompts, clues, or teaching to see how much support the student needs to reach a correct solution. The amount of intervention needed, not just the final score, becomes the diagnostic measure. This approach provides educators with the information they truly need, not just what the student knows, but how the student learns best and where their potential for growth lies. It's an approach designed to get to the heart of the matter, the learning process itself. The curriculum as cultural tool. Vygotsky's emphasis on cultural mediation suggests that the curriculum itself should be viewed as a collection of essential psychological tools. Curricula should be designed around culturally relevant activities that are meaningful to the learner. Abstract concepts should be introduced in a context that allows students to recreate the historical, cultural process of how that knowledge was originally developed. For instance, teaching the principles of democracy is not just about memorizing facts. It is about engaging students in a culturally meaningful activity like a mock trial or legislative debate, where they utilize the psychological tools of argumentation, negotiation, and constitutional language. The goal is to facilitate the student's ability to harness the cultural tools necessary to master their environment. Like any grand theory, SCT is not without its limitations and complexities. Understanding these nuances is key to a balanced, expert application of the framework. Theoretical and empirical challenges. 1. The emotional and affective gap. A persistent critique is that Vygotsky, due to his premature death, did not fully elaborate on the role of the affective domain, emotions, motivation, personality, in development. While his last work touched upon the unity of affect and intellect, the theory is predominantly cognitive-social, weaving modern educators to fill in the gaps regarding how emotion mediates learning. 2. Difficulty in operationalizing ZPD. While a brilliant concept, the ZPD is notoriously difficult to measure empirically. How does one precisely quantify the distance between independent and assisted performance? There is no standardized ZPD test. This has led some critics to argue that the concept is more of a compelling pedagogical guide than a strictly rigorous scientific construct. 3. Cross-cultural applicability. While the theory is fundamentally about culture, some have pointed out the need to ensure its principles are applied with sensitivity across extremely diverse cultural contexts, as the tools and signs valued by one culture may differ significantly from another. Addressing misconceptions. It is common for educators to mix up Vygotsky's terms. Clearing up two major misconceptions is essential. Misconception 1. The ZPD is just any teaching. The ZPD is not simply the place where students are challenged. It is the zone where assisted performance is possible. If a student needs no help, it's outside the ZPD, in the actual level. If a student still fails, even with expert help, it's beyond the ZPD. Instruction must be tailored to that sweet spot of potential. Misconception 2. Scaffolding is synonymous with instruction. Scaffolding specifically implies contingency and fading. Any instruction can be supportive, but true scaffolding requires the MKO to dynamically adjust support and, crucially, to withdraw it, transferring ownership to the learner. Without the planned removal of support, fading, the student remains dependent, which defeats the whole point of the ZPD. SCT in the digital age, new psychological tools. In the 21st century, Vygotsky's concepts come into their own with the advent of digital technology. Digital tools serve as powerful new psychological and technical tools that mediate modern cognition. The internet and cloud computing. These platforms mediate memory, externalizing vast amounts of information, collaboration, shared documents, and communication, fundamentally reshaping how students interact with knowledge. When a student uses Google Docs to co-author a paper, the platform itself is a new cultural tool, facilitating interpsychological writing. Artificial intelligence, AI. AI tools such as generative language models can act as highly sophisticated, personalized MKOs. They can provide immediate, contingent feedback, break down complex tasks, and model expert responses, essentially offering automated, dynamic scaffolding that is precisely tuned to an individual learner's ZPD. This represents a groundbreaking area for Vygotsky-inspired research. Multimedia and simulations. Interactive simulations and virtual reality environments serve as cultural tools that allow students to explore complex phenomena, like physics or anatomy, that would otherwise be beyond their reach, mediating their understanding of the physical world. This contemporary application reinforces the timelessness of Vygotsky's core idea. Human intelligence advances by acquiring and mastering new culturally developed tools. Lev Vygotsky's sociocultural theory didn't just add a chapter to educational psychology, it rewrote the book. By placing social interaction, culture, and language at the very heart of cognitive development, he offered a holistic, dynamic, and profoundly optimistic view of the learning process. He showed us that the classroom is not just a place where individual minds are filled, but a vibrant cultural workshop where new minds are forged. His legacy is defined by three unwavering insights: the recognition that social interaction is the source of all higher thought, the understanding that cultural tools, especially language, are the mediators that structure our cognition, and the powerful realization that effective teaching must be focused on potential rather than past achievement, encapsulated perfectly by the zone of proximal development. Educational reform today continues to take a leaf out of Vygotsky's book. From the pervasive use of collaborative project-based learning to the rise of personalized digital scaffolding, Modern pedagogy is fundamentally Vygotskian. Teachers who embrace this framework stop asking, "What does the child know?" and start asking the far more powerful question, "What can the child achieve tomorrow with my assistance?" In answering that question, educators truly become the architects of their students' cognitive futures, making Vygotsky's framework a perpetual source of inspiration and guidance for anyone committed to helping learners reach their full potential. The power of connection, communication, and community remains the ultimate pathway to intellectual growth.